Before we dive into today's episode, I have something truly special to share. Next September, I'll be leading an intimate women's retreat through the south of France and northern Italy, and you're invited. Picture this: mornings exploring the colorful markets of the French Riviera, afternoons sipping wine, and a hotel view with golden Mediterranean sunsets. Whether you love photography, food, or just want to reconnect with your playful creative self, this trip is designed for you. Spots are limited, so if all this sounds like your kind of adventure, please visit tourwithabsolutely.com and look for the tour France and Italy with Crystal. You can also send me a message or check out the show notes. Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Hey guys, I'm back with Anne Ditmeyer. I interviewed her years ago when I first started this show, and now we're back with her new book, Override. We're going to be featuring this book for our book club, so make sure you tune in, sign up for book club. It's online. You guys can join from anywhere in the world, and I can't wait to share this new and exciting book with you. So welcome back to the show, Anne.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm kind of in awe of how many episodes you have done in between that first episode and now, but it's an honor to be here.
4 years go by in a heartbeat. And I think this show is like what brought us together, because I met so many amazing people through the podcast, and now we're back here 4 years later.
Yeah. And it's been fun seeing and hearing other friends on your podcast and discovering people had no idea they were out there. So you are the master of like finding this creative community here.
Well, I want to come back to your creativity because a lot has changed since the last time we talked. I mean, you've published your own book. You have your own publishing company now. We have a lot to talk about. I am reading Override right now. I'm obsessed. But I want to talk a little bit to you about how your life has changed since we last recorded, other than all those big steps.
It's really interesting. And when you put a big project out into the world, it can be really easy to get sucked into it. But because, the way I did this book is completely untraditional, and I'm sure we'll dig into that I've kind of had more opportunity to reflect. And the more people I talk to, it allows me to reflect more. And I can really see how everything is a little plot point that all fits together. And this project is really a culmination of so much life experience, both directly and indirectly, and skills I had no idea I had. So it all is kind of fitting together in terms of puzzle pieces, and it felt like the natural next fit. I think for me, a lot of people would have assumed that I would have written a book about Paris. And it's not a book about Paris. It's my experience living here for 15 years now. But yeah, just seeing how I went from kind of teaching to running my own workshops and coaching, and then using so many of those lessons to pull them together in the book, and then digging way back to my first master's in publications design to actually design my first book, and using all the skills I learned in blogging in terms of promoting my book and social media in terms of sharing it. And for me, it's been really important to get creative and have fun, because I see so many people who publish traditionally and just seems exhausting. And it's exhausting. There's a lot to do with a book, and it's more than just writing a book. And you know that too from your experience. But just learning to use all this life experience and, some of it's, again, the direct skills of design. I ended up designing the book. I illustrated every doodle. I wrote it. But also just the inner stuff about having the confidence to keep going and accepting that this took way longer than I thought. And just keeping going step by step, one step at a time. So a lot of the lessons I preach in my Mapping Your Path cohorts and workshops, like, oh, I got to embody that in my own life.
It's pretty exciting when that all comes together, and even more so that you just take it, all these life experiences, all these careers, all these jobs, and put them together to create this new, beautiful, creative endeavor. And even in the book, you mention how people say, like, oh, I'm surprised you're still here. You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to stay. You're not going to be able to have that job. You're not going to be able to be a coach. You're not like, it's so fun. I love seeing people like overcome everyone else's fear. So it's pretty cool to see how you brought all that together. And talk a little bit about your process in writing this book. Obviously, you know, all these life experiences, but did you know from the beginning what it was going to be about?
No, I didn't even know I was writing a book. And so I think what I see in so much of my work is people wait to have everything figured out before they start. And so they never start, or they are really hard on themselves, or think they should be further, or think they should be at a different step. So, and I talk about it a little bit in the book, but the early seeds of this book, and I don't know if it was this book or a different book, happened the summer of the first round of the pandemic, and talking with a friend, and we're like, we should write a book. But then it just became, that fizzled out and took a long break. And it was about a year later of not thinking about it at all, or thinking about writing or anything. I came back from a trip, and I just felt intuitively pulled to go sit at a cafe on an afternoon and get a coffee and write outside in the world. And so, you know, Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way talks about artist dates. And so it became this like date with myself. And I got a keyboard for my iPad, so I didn't have as many distractions with the internet. And I was just writing chapters. So the whole book is like physically really small. It's meant to fit in your pocket and be something you can travel with. And the chapters are like 1 to 3 pages. I wanted it to be really accessible and bite-sized, but do not be fooled. Writing something short is not easier. There was a lot of refinement. So I ended up writing a lot of chapters. And then at one point I was going on a trip, and I wanted to give this friend that I had first started the project with, I wanted to give him a copy of it. Not to be like, haha, I did it, but just as like accountability to myself. So I started printing the first copy on lulu.com, who is how I'm direct selling this book. So I'm selling it differently. So again, doing a lot of things differently. And I printed the copy, and I was like, oh, here, by the way, there's this. And it looks like a legit book. And version 1, and I think I got to version 8. I've stopped counting. There's so many versions. Like, it doesn't look that different, but inside there was so much happening. So writing the book was very healing for me. So after I gave that copy, like 2 months later, I was on another trip, and I gave a copy to a mentor friend who had no idea I was writing this book, because I never talked about it online. I didn't tell anybody I was writing a book for a really long time. In general, when I told people, it was when I saw them in person, or they're part of my 3-month community. But I needed to hold this closely and hold it guarded, because I wanted to just be able to sit with it. And I see traditional publishing and the crazy timelines and the deadlines. And I always knew I wanted to self-publish once I got to the point of like, ooh, I think this is a book, because I feel like it's something the world needs now. And I didn't want to go through the rejection of an agent and then feeling not good enough, or having all these outside forces tell me I couldn't do things. Because one of the chapters in the book is not needing external validation. So, and I also like to ask the question, like, what if there was another way? So for me, self-publishing seemed like the way. I was very naive. I got to learn a whole lot about publishing and self-publishing in the process. And it can be overwhelming, but I talk about mindset in the book as well. I realized that I love learning. So if I wasn't working on the books or the edits or refining it, I was learning something about the publishing process. And a lot of publishing is outdated and hasn't changed and a little dysfunctional. But I kind of learned how to play the game, and I figured out ways to make it fun for me. So I knew it was going to be pocket size. I like this idea of black and white. Some of it I was like, ooh, maybe this will make it cheaper to print. But then it's not really anymore. But I wanted to kind of play with that, the black and white. And then I started to dream about like my launch party, which you were at, where I made everybody wear black and white. And I'm known for banana maps, where I make people draw maps on bananas as a way to get outside of themselves creatively. And so I started to think about these other elements outside of the book and create this universe, which helped informed how I moved forward on the book. So I think sometimes we can get stuck just working on the book. This is the book. And then I'll think about publicity and promotion afterwards. And so for me, it made it fun because I allowed myself to have fun with it and be like, oh, this is just kind of ridiculous. Let me be silly. Because there's so much noise out there too. You have to get noticed. So that's my long way of saying is, no, I didn't know I was writing a book. It kind of, I like to say it told me what to do next. And friends would be like, is it out yet? Is it out yet? Once I did know, and I didn't love that pressure, and it was all well-meaning, but I was like, no, I got to get the edits in. And I see how the timing kind of was meant to be, what it was to be. And, the last year of it, I was like, next month. And I didn't do any pre-orders. I didn't do any of the traditional publishing ways to, quote, play the game. But I also realized what I'm trying to model is not doing things the way that everybody else does.
Yeah, and I think that the book is a great example of that, from creating it to actually reading it and taking the advice from inside it. And what do you want people to gain from this book? I mean, I know obviously the title says a lot, but talk a little bit about what you want people to take away.
So the full title is Override: What If There's Another Way? A Pocket Playbook for Possibility. So I want people to read it and discover their own other way of doing things. So a lot of it's to free people. There's so many societal constraints or programming or assumptions that we need to do things a certain way. And I don't want people to agree with everything in the book. I want the book to allow people to reflect on their own journeys or find different terminology that resonates with them, or just to reflect about something that maybe they hadn't thought about. A common theme in my community is, especially when people leave a job or career by choice or not by choice, it's challenging because the job and our work becomes so much part of our identity. So just even to be able to think about that, and unless you're around other people questioning it, you feel like, what's wrong with me? I'm broken. And the whole book is about, you're not broken. The way that we've been kind of trained and programmed could use an update. So it's also a permission slip to take action. So, sometimes we think, oh, I just need a reset or a reboot. But the idea of override is you have to take a new action to get a new outcome. So part of this book as well, I want it to be a conversation. So I want it to help foster conversations with other people and be a dialogue. I have a companion website on Substack, which is just getting started now. I don't know where it's going to go, but for me, that is the joy of this process, that we can't control the outcome, but the outcome isn't going to change if we sit here and do nothing. So just to see how we can engage and play with people that way, and just getting people asking questions, because the way the world is right now is not working and it needs to change. And, I'm kind of laughing as I say this, given headlines from both France and the US when we're recording this. And by the time it's published, I kind of just, I'm shaking my head, like, where's the world going to be at then? So I want it to be a place that gives people refuge and peace and a moment for themselves in a challenging world.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think most of the world wants refuge and peace. So especially in today's turbulent, world and political situations. So I love the idea of this book. And there's so many self-help books out there, but it's really fun, like you said, that there's this pocket size and it does these little activities with each chapter. There's little reflections, little drawings. I mean, drawing is such a huge part of what you do in your creative coaching and your workshops. And talk a little bit about some common issues you've seen through your workshops for people that come up in the book too. Like you mentioned a little bit about, societal standards and is it what's wrong with us? Like, what are some other common themes?
I mean, the biggest thing is mindset and how we talk to ourselves. So it's the message that kind of gets ingrained in us and we repeat over and over. Like I have to do all this training before I can even start doing anything and telling these stories. But when we shift the language and how we look at it, it can open so many possibilities for us. So it takes repetition to do that, to override our default ways. But I would say that, yeah, I can't even remember what part 2 of the book is called, but it's all an empowered mind. Yes, that's what it's called. It's really to kind of shift that mindset by opening our awareness. So I think sometimes people are like pushing through and muscling through and trying to do. And I also want to give people an alternative way, which is like taking a deep breath. There's strategies throughout all of this. It's like go for a walk, step away from the computer. And in order to change the mindset, we also have to be aware of it first. So I think it's something that we want to brush under the rug and ignore. But when we're able to name it and talk to other people about it, it's like, oh, you feel this too. And that's something I notice in my community a lot. And it doesn't even have to be the exact same situation or issue or challenge, but there's so many parallel experiences out there. So a lot of it is this opening of awareness before we can change our mindset, or realizing, ooh, I have a scarcity mindset. Like, I really don't believe that's possible for me. So yeah, I think the power of the mind is key. And realizing that, maybe some of this productivity culture and optimization and having to do all the things isn't really helping us. And also I know it can be scary to try to show up in a different way. So there is also this permission slip to, try something or experiment. And I think play is also another really key ingredient that people feel like they need permission to do. And it's the first thing that comes out of schools, first thing that comes out of workplaces. But I know for me, injecting play is where so much of the magic and power comes.
And from all your experiences with working with workshops and groups of people, do you think working in groups is a better way for us to face some of these issues and to bring more awareness? Do you think it helps to hear other people say, hey, I was having this problem too, and like you don't feel so alone when looking at these things?
Yeah, I think we need connection. I always was like maybe skeptical or not totally sold on the idea of like group programs for a long time, but it was also because the way other people were leading it didn't resonate with me. But I see working with people in my Mapping Your Path 3-month communities that people unlock each other faster than a coach can. Because I think sometimes we can look to a coach as having all the answers and fix me instead of like doing the work inwardly. And so I don't force anybody to engage or be active in the community. And there's some folks who are, quote, lurkers, which is self-described, but witnessing and seeing other ways people are showing up or responding to things or dealing with like changes a lot. So some of it is just witnessing, because we can feel really alone. There's a loneliness epidemic in the world too. But I think there's a lot of power of just staying open and having conversations and connection. And as a facilitator, I've learned a lot about the micro moments that we can create to foster this ability to connect and exchange. And I always say, we're not here to fix anybody. I know that as a facilitator and coach, I can also want to have all the answers and tell somebody what to do to make it all better. But I also like to normalize there's discomfort or, it's sitting in it. And I was like, wow, nobody ever taught me that in school or told me that in any business training or anything. So yeah, it's about just feeling and being more human, I think.
And do you feel that when we're in discomfort, where we're getting into the good stuff, like we're making that movement into what we need to be doing, or sometimes discomfort is just discomfort?
No, I'm a big fan of discomfort, and there are probably at least 3 times in the book where I say, like, if you feel uncomfortable, you're probably doing something right, not wrong. So I think that often people have the tendency to want to give up or think they're doing something wrong when it doesn't feel great. But it's part of the growing pains. And one of the doodles in the book that I drew is a lobster. An idea, the shell grows with the lobster and it outgrows it. So like growing a new shell isn't comfortable, but you need it to step into this new space.
And how has writing this book changed your life?
I mean, it's still too soon to fully know, but friends ask me, how's it going? And I'm really happy with everything so far. And I don't know if it's the answers that a lot of authors would give, but I would say I just have so much gratitude. It has allowed me to reconnect with so many people, even having this conversation with you, connect with old coworkers or friends, but also people I don't know, followers of my newsletter, people who bought the book that I have no idea where they found me, who have sent me messages. And it's led to these wonderful exchanges. And there's something about writing this book, which I'm very real and honest and vulnerable inside. Like, I think it allows for that connectivity. And I also say, like, reach out, tell a friend, like, let me know what you thought. But I feel so much gratitude for these little moments. And I know that society looks at success and number of books sold and money earned as our barometer of success. I'm only a month and a half into this process by the time we're talking. But for me, I'm really pleased that I'm using this level of connectivity as my barometer of success. So every week or every few days, I get these different opportunities that come to me. So that happened early in my days of my original blog, Prêt à Voyager, where all these opportunities came to me because I put myself out there and shared my experiences. And so rather than having to pitch myself, which feels like climbing a mountain sometimes, to have these opportunities come to be stepping stones. You know, I'm publishing non-traditionally. My book is not on Amazon at this point. It probably will be, but it's just direct through me, and it's not in bookstores and libraries yet. It's part of the larger goal, but a lot was going on in my life at the time the book came out. And so I was like, no, let me do this as a phased process and allow that stepping stone. But it was interesting. In Paris, I was walking to therapy of all places, which is across the river. And Messy Nessie Chic is a really popular blog and newsletter here. Nessie had just opened a shop 2 days prior, and I was stopping by just to say, congratulations, this looks awesome. And it's really fun to see the evolution of your work. And then she's like, wait, what? You wrote a book? Like, can I sell it here? And she's like, we should do an event. And so that was all just genuine authenticity of celebrating somebody else and realizing how we can support each other and both learn in these new, different but parallel adventures. So I like that I can savor each experience and each moment in a way that if it was full speed ahead, having to respond to a million things, only dealing with sales, like it would be exhausting, because learning the e-commerce platform has been, one of those learning curves. And I have to say that this morning, I was actually looking at the photos that one of the photographers from your team, Nicolas, shot the official launch event. And I was looking at those to send like thank you emails to people. And it just made me so happy to see how happy everybody was there. And people are like, Anne, you brought together such amazing people. That was so fun. You need to do this more often. So it helped me realize these things that I can do naturally, but I don't do enough because I feel like I should be doing something else. So the whole process has been a permission slip for myself to really get creative, and most importantly, to enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, and stay open to possibilities. And I'm really excited that we're recording this now, so it becomes yet another plot point of, remember when we had this conversation? That was the beginning of the journey, and then this happened. And so yeah, it's really fun, and I'm allowing it to take the time it takes.
I love that. And I love that you just followed this curiosity. Like you said, you didn't even know you were writing a book. You were just playing in the shadows, having fun and seeing where it took you. And it's really, like you said, it's just fun to learn something new, because we go through these, doing our day to day, and to learn how to write a book, publish a book, advertise a book, start a publishing company. Like, that's a lot. So a lot
Oh
of
my gosh,
learning.
it's so many things, and it's enough on its own, but publishing is so niche. In March, last minute, again, intuitively things. I went to the London Book Fair, where one of the writers from Writers Hour, who lives in London, like, joined me, or it was her idea, and I was like, oh, let me go. And then I met the Alliance of Independent Authors and indie publishing, and I was like, wow, my mind just like went way wider. But I think it's easy again to get overwhelmed early on. So I was grateful to be like, okay, I'm going to take the information that I need right now, can file the rest away, and I don't have to do everything.
I completely agree. And I can't wait to see like where this book takes you next and how it connects you even more. And I know we already answered this question on our last episode, but maybe your answer has changed. How would you define creativity in your own words?
Creativity, this is a new answer, I think. Creativity is trusting yourself, even when it doesn't make sense to you or the people around you.
I think that is a great definition. I love to hear everyone's definition of that word, because it's a different definition for everybody in their own way. And do you have any advice for people who want to publish their own book? I know so many people are dying to write a book, share their story. What are your top 3 pieces of advice for them?
Anything we do, it's about learning to show up for yourself. So you don't have to show up perfectly, but for me, it was most afternoons I took myself to the cafe. So the other thing for me, it was to get out. So it's really hard for me to work on the book in my apartment. So every Sunday I take myself to a hotel lobby and sit and write. And I really look forward to it. So find a way that is fun for you and can get you excited about it. And then I would say, like, don't use like word count as like your barometer for success, and don't worry if you're spending a lot of time refining one area. Just trust all the questions that you have for yourself. Because anytime I was like, okay, that's good enough, one of my beta readers or one of the editors I pulled in externally like came back to me and kind of called me out on it. And it was like, oh, it was more work and it could be overwhelming. But I was like, okay, nope, this is my opportunity to make this as good as it can be. And then I'll say, practically, London Writer Salon hosts Writers Hour. It's a free Zoom room 4 times a day. Join that community as a free member and a paid member for accountability. The Alliance of Independent Authors was like almost like too serious, but once I got to really close to publishing, that was great. And Joanna Penn has a podcast called The Creative Penn, Penn, and she is just a wealth of information. She is a self-published author, but she always opens with a bit of a reflection news update of what's happening in the traditional publishing world as well. So you don't have to internalize and do everything that you hear. But for me, it was just about like collecting little puzzle pieces, and I got to choose which pieces I wanted to use, in my journey forward.
Oh, I think that's all great advice to end on. And we will be hosting this book in our next book club. So guys, make sure you click the link in the bio. You can pick up your copy, sign up for book club. It's online, so you can join from anywhere in the world. And we'll have Anne joining us to talk about the book, to talk about your experiences. So make sure you click the link in the bio to join us. And Anne, where can people pick up this book?
First off, I have to say that I was so excited when you reached out to me, because connecting with readers is one of my barometers of success, like I said, and just goals, and to have this conversation. And I don't want it to be one way of me saying everything. I really want it to be a dialogue. And I think people should bring bananas to that event so we can banana map during it.
I think it's a great idea. Everybody make sure you have your bananas ready. We'll be sending the date and everything. We'll give you time to read the book, do the book. But definitely that's a big part of what Anne does as well. So make sure you have your banana ready. We'll explain more in the email.
Yeah. Well, and just maybe by definition of creativity is mapping on a banana. So it's in the book. It's on my website. But to find the book, it's at override-book.com, which redirects to my website at anneditmeyer.com. And so it is sold directly. So my book is printed in the US, Canada, UK, France, India, and Australia. So it ships worldwide. It's printed on demand. So there's less waste. It's printed through Lulu, who I mentioned early on when I printed draft 1. So I needed that physical object early on to help motivate me because I knew form was important. And again, my background is in design and graphic design. So having the physical object was motivation for me to keep going. So there's another tip for you. So yeah, the book is at override-book.com. And then there is an Instagram for Override Book, but really Prêt à Voyager, where I look like a garden gnome, is my other handle that I'm most known for. So that's where you can find me and more about the book.
Well, thanks so much for writing this book, Anne. We are so excited to host it for Book Club. And guys, make sure you pick up your copy. Click the link in the bio to join us. We'll send you all the information so you can speak directly with Anne and share your experiences with the book. Because guys, it is an interactive book. You got some work to do, some fun work, and we can talk more about it during Book Club. So thanks so much, Anne.
You're so welcome. And thanks for having me. And don't feel like you have to do everything, folks. Just take what you need and resonates and leave the rest. It's okay. And you're going to do great. And I really just want this to be a support for you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.